working with the shadow energy of conflict into the gift of diplomacy and the highest frequency of that energetic column being peace. And then I had an opportunity to go through my own conflict. Now, for context, I have been navigating a lot of overthinking this week, especially when it comes to allowing myself to have things, especially things that I would enjoy, but maybe I was conditioned into believing as a kid I didn't deserve because it was a want and not necessarily a need. And so this week has been a high wave part of the week for me in that I've been able to keep going. I've been able to maintain high energy. Even when bees are trying to get me. Um, I have been able to maintain higher energy than I maybe would have if I was in a lower, more reflective part of my wave. And so now I'm entering into baseline. Oh my gosh. Now I'm entering into baseline and I'm starting to have access to more discernment, more editing of the way that I was feeling when I was in the higher part of the wave. And that has been difficult to reconcile this morning because one of the first emotions that decided to process itself was grief. Grief over a number of things, but mainly grief of a dream, of a plan, of a vision that I had had, and the story or the narrative that I had associated with it, and just kind of grieving the loss of like that not being how it played out, and that not necessarily being um, how it will play out, how I envisioned it, and being in a state of hypervigilance around understanding that gratitude is how we move out of this place, and at the same time wanting to honor where I was in terms of, but I feel this very deeply. I feel this very strongly. And so, as I have been using information today, not just information about my own energetic patterns, but we went to a compost day. Apparently, this week was International Compost Week. And so they had a compost day event like 5 minutes from where I live at Eco City Farms. And so we went to the Bladensburg location, got to learn about composting, how it's made. We got to see the beds or the containment centers for the earthworm wrigglers that make the castings that help to condition the soil and make it something that is really beneficial and nutritional for the plants that it's being used to grow. And so, even in getting to nerd out about microbiomes and seeing the process of how people can bring in compost, old food scraps, and how it goes through this process of what would be considered waste, what would end up in a landfill somewhere, contributing to methane gases and all of these different gases, is now becoming a part of a process that can help like fuel life instead of take away from it. So learning has been a big theme of today and helping me navigate and move through like just staying out of my head, but then still being, when I'm in a learning state, I consider that to be a state of wonder and awe because I'm literally learning new things. It's literally learning new processes, learning new information. And so I guess coming back to where I am now, from that place of information, something just like kicked in for me. And so when I was learning about the shadow of conflict. In the contemplation, it talked about how there's almost this fear that someone can take something from you. And I had made this connection around emotional energy and suppressing anger and suppressing joy. And I think one of the things that I have been grieving today was probably the opportunity to ask for what I wanted, like a desire. And I feel like that's a theme with a couple of events that have happened this week. And so today was almost a reclamation of that energy of asking for what it is that I want. And so the question, as simple as it was posed as, do I want cookies? And there is a plant-based cookie place that I like that I've just discovered. And there's also this place called Cinnaholic that makes vegan cinnamon buns. And I had been wanting to try it since I saw it. It is a little bit further. It is new, and we're not sure if we're going to like it all the way. It's a lot of, I guess, what you could call emotional energy to navigate. If anyone who goes on that trip has any sort of emotional reaction to it, whether that be the joy of, oh my gosh, this is amazing, I want to eat the whole thing, but like that's not healthy, or the disappointment of, this is actually nasty. Why do they have so many of these? And navigating, literally just learning about food waste and how do we now navigate this cinnamon bun that apparently we don't like. So emotional energy, no matter those things or the in between or anything other than that. And yet somewhere inside of me there was something that didn't light up over cookies. It lit up over a cinnamon bun, and then when I went to go search on the website, I saw that they have cinnamon buns that they top with cookie dough. You can also get just cookie dough. You can also get cookies. And that was exciting. Cookie dough on top of a cinnamon bun? This sounds like a yes. And yet again, here I am being this person who's been navigating their, what would have been called in my youth, you're in a mood. And I have had people who love me try to cheer me up today, to try and help. And it's been one of those things where I guess ultimately I knew that it was work that had to be done internally. So it felt wrong in a way to involve anyone else in that process, especially because I still hadn't fully processed yet. And so I gave myself permission to ask for what I wanted. And it wasn't necessarily like, I thought once I looked them up and saw the difference, like more excitement would have been there. There was excitement like in me, but then at the same time of that excitement, there was also like, ooh, I don't want to ask for anything else. Um, and just noticing like the feeling of navigating multiple emotions at once and trusting myself enough to say what it is that I wanted. And like I said, it wasn't necessarily met with the excitement that was in my heart, even though that wasn't what was being displayed. What was being displayed probably outward was fear. So it's probably met with uncertainty because there was a fearful feeling, but it just, it came out. I said what I wanted, and I didn't apologize for it. I also didn't, in that moment, try to make it easier. I did afterwards. I did slip into, like, we can do other things. Um, Shadow energy of compromise. I did slip into that later, but in that moment where I felt all of my senses kind of on edge because I said the thing that was on my heart, and now it's up to this other person. Almost, my mind was telling this story, it's up to this other person to say whether or not the thing that I want can happen or not. And that took me back to a childhood place that did not feel safe. I noticed that I had some interesting feelings around the containment of that experience in my body. And I guess on a subconscious level, I remembered that humans, similar to animals, when they go through these hyper stressful states, have energy in their being that they need to get out. So, for example, when a zebra is chased by a lion and it outruns the lion, the zebra will oftentimes like shake, or it'll run, it'll make a movement so it can get out all of that excess energy that's just been stored, that adrenaline that's just built up in its body, in order to discharge it and release it so that it doesn't become trapped stress in their body, and the zebra is like having PTSD every time it comes out of, I don't know where zebras live, for lack of better terms, in a cave. Whenever it comes out of the cave and it's like, oh my gosh, am I going to be attacked by another lion? Like, it releases that energy so that it can be in a state of, um, what is it called? Like homeostasis, of this state of balance. And so I realized that I needed to get myself back to baseline. And there was a part of me that said, you could just breathe. You could just sit still and you could just breathe your way through it. And I don't think that that is something that would have been wrong in that instance. I just know this other deeper pattern that I have of staying and sitting in the emotional discomfort, in the energy, just to make someone else feel better, because at least they know where I am. They can see whether I feel better or not. And so I made the decision to run. Now, I will admit my inner critic gave me some back and forth because I'm not a runner. Even when I was in the Air Force, I didn't like running in basic training. I got out of it as often as I could. So, this idea of running being the first natural thing to pop in my head was not natural. And yet, there was something cathartic, um, maybe even like primal, because I'm talking about zebras and lions, about understanding that my body needed to move in this way. And I ended up running downhill. And then as it leveled out, I kind of came into a faster paced walk. And it was through that rhythmic walking that I was able to sync breath with movement and come to another bottom of the hill as I was doing that, and to just stand there and realize like the sensations of what was happening in my body, realizing that all of that energy that was in my head, circling, storming. You just ask for what you want. You're going to die. They're going to say no. They're going to be upset with you. Like, you asked for too much. Like, all of that energy that was swirling in here, the energy from actually, like, putting my heart on my sleeve is what some people would say, and asking for what it is that I wanted, what it is that I desired, and feeling the contraction of, like, why are you asking this other person for this? What? Like, just, this isn't safe kind of feeling in my chest. And to just notice that as I focused on running and needing to control my breathing in running, and I guess even now that I'm talking about this, noticing the sensation that my legs gave me when they leveled out. Like, it was easy to run downhill because it was momentum. But even noticing the sensation of my legs leveling out and gravity settling into my legs, like, that could have been a sensation I stayed with a little bit longer. To help I hear a cat meowing. I'm not sure where it's coming from. But to just stay with the sensation a little bit longer, and to just notice how it brings you out of your head, out of your chest, out of whatever you're going through, and it brings you into that state of homeostasis. So I guess today I gave myself permission to ask for what I wanted, even when it felt difficult for emotional reasons, even if those emotional reasons didn't make sense to anyone else but me. And then I also gave myself permission to, really don't know where this meowing is coming from. I gave myself permission to try out a new coping skill that everything in my mind told me no, but somewhere in my body felt this deep yes. So I guess in a way it was permission to reclaim the body's wisdom over the mind's perceived wisdom of what would have been the right thing to do in that moment. Especially given what I've learned about the shadow energy of stress into the gift of restraint, and that the highest frequency is stillness. In that moment of running, I found stillness within the bodily sensations that I was experiencing. So I guess that was a new way to experience stillness. That's what I gave myself permission to do. That's all for today. I'm going to see if I can find out where the source of this meowing was coming from. I know you probably couldn't hear it because noise cancellation, but there was a cat meowing. So I will see you tomorrow. Yep, 30 days. Here we go.